How do you turn a weakness into a strength? When you're going through something difficult, how do you handle that situation? We'll come back to that a little later. Now, in my last video, I talked about how I used to play with toys and, because I had a lot of free time in my hands. So I had a lot of dramatic scenarios with stuffed animals. And I mentioned basketball trophies. So I used to play with my uncle's basketball trophies. And he was the one who got me into basketball. And I grew up loving, as a New Yorker, the New York Knicks, of course, naturally. There was no other team. I mean, the Nets, they were okay. I mean, I'm not trying to make this about basketball, but like the Nets, they had their little moment. But it was all about, and it's still all about the Knicks. So because of my uncle, I became a New York Knicks fan. But there's one player who pretty much the world knows as to be, I want to say indisputably, is that a word? But let's just say arguably one of the best basketball players in the world. All right, I'm not trying to debate you. Arguably one of the best basketball players in the world is none other than Michael Jordan. I don't want to turn this into a battle, but I do want to share a quote from you by him. And he says, "My attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, then I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength." I'll read it again. "My attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, then I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength." So basically what he's saying is that he will find a way to turn his weaknesses into strengths. And if he feels that he's being pushed into something that's challenging, he's going to find a way to work to his advantage. He found a way. And that's why he's arguably one of the greatest basketball players in the world, because he had that mindset. Kobe too. Mamba mentality. So there's so many weaknesses that I had, that I still have. So I'm just going to focus on one that kind of connects to my current situation. And that has to do with speaking in public speaking. When I had presentations in like middle school and high school, and even in college, I would get so nervous. I mean, I was stuttering. My hands were shaking a little bit, especially in middle school and high school. I controlled the handshaking in college. And as I got older, it was more like I was losing my train of thought. And that was one of my weaknesses. Now, it's still difficult for me, but I've been able to manage that better. It's still hard, and I'll get into that. And so when I started teaching, like that first year I was teaching ESL in South Korea, I was really nervous. I was nervous because it was my first time. It was my first experience. And even though they were children, it was like I had to get up there and perform, because that's kind of like what part of what ESL teaching is. You got to perform. And so I knew what I had to teach, but like how I taught it, I was like kind of clueless about for that first year. But after the first year, it got better, because I was like, why am I nervous? I am from an English-speaking country. There's not much to overthink. This is my native language, my native tongue. Why am I getting... I am the one who has to help them. And then they're like sitting there with the little cute faces looking at me for the answers. And that calmed me down, because I was like, wait a minute. This is something that I know naturally. I don't even have to overthink it at all. And so from that point, it got easier. Now, it was still difficult to do that, especially with adults. See, and that's the thing that I struggled with. I got over the kids and teaching them, but the adults, even small groups, still very, very nervous, even to this day. Sometimes I get really uncomfortable having to stand up on a stage and talk about something, even talk about myself. I still get kind of nervous. But one of the things that's made it easier for me is experience, because the more experience I had, the more confidence I had. So as the years have gone by, I'm not as nervous as I used to be. I still am, but it's getting better. And the reason is that I have experience. Oh, I forgot to mention preparation, because preparation and experience gave me confidence. So let's say you may not have a lot of experience in something and you feel nervous about it, but if you're well prepared, it's going to give you the confidence that you need to execute it properly. So preparation is really, really important. And so I'll ask you again, how do you turn a perceived, and I think that's the key word, perceive, because sometimes the things that we think are weaknesses are not. It's all in our head, right? And we're overthinking it. And then when we overcome that challenge, we're like, wait a minute, that wasn't that bad. It was just that you were playing it out so much and imagining it in negative ways. So how do you deal, or how would you and will you deal with a perceived weakness? And what can you do to turn it into a strength? So it looks different for everyone. But as I said, I think one of the keys is preparation. So even if you don't have the experience, if you're well prepared, it will help you so much. 2 years ago, I started Instagram. And my friend was like, you have to do it. I'm like, no, but I'm so nervous. I'm an introvert. And she's like, no, you're not. You're not an introvert. I don't believe. I'm like, no, serious. I'm serious. I am. She's like, no, you don't. You're going to have to, if you want to reach a certain goal in your life related to social media, you have to put yourself out there. So 2 years ago, I started Instagram. And it's a faceless page. So you don't see my face on there. It's just quotes and poems. But fast forward, that page is doing really well. I'm not going to say how many followers. It's doing so well. And it's happening naturally, authentically, and organically. And I think it's doing well because I started out like not showing my face. And then my friend's like, okay, it's time for TikTok. I'm like, no, please, no. She's like, yep, it's time. It's time to go to the next step. So last month, I got on TikTok. Whew. I'm working through it. But I reminded myself, wait a minute, I'm a teacher. So I have to take that strength as a teacher to help me overcome my weakness and imagine it as if I'm teaching people something. And that has made it so much easier. And now here I am talking to you. So you can change your weaknesses. And like I always say, start off small. Don't make it complicated. Because sometimes, like I said, or as Michael Jordan said, it's a perceived weakness. But use that perceived weakness to become your strength. And think about things that you're good at that could potentially help you overcome that weakness. Well, I don't know what I'm good at. Maybe ask somebody then. Take the time to figure it out. And think about how you can use those things to get rid of those perceived weaknesses little by little. Take your time. Take your time. You've got this. I hope that helps. Thank you so much, so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.